we had an old uncle, we called him Uncle Willie Armstrong and Auntie Maud Armstrong. They were brothers and sisters. They were brother and a sister. And Uncle Willie always came out to South Africa to see us. In fact, he came to South Africa ever before we came. So one time he decided he would bring his sister, Auntie Maud, and they came to stay with us. Now, Auntie Maud was very friendly.
Just a second.
Some people,
there's a feedback from somebody.
What did he say?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Somebody's got their microphone on.
Yeah, there's a double microphone, so just turn off your microphones. Hey, Stephen.
It's Stephen here and Peter Neal. What are you two doing here for the children's story time? Honestly.
Good for you.
Uncle Willie and Auntie.
We like stories.
Mommy, you'll have to just start again. All right, all the microphones off, and then Mommy start again.
How do I switch my mic off?
On the screen?
On
Top.
the bottom
Yeah,
left
but
somewhere, Peter.
I'm on my phone.
If you touch your
Yes,
phone
on
screen,
there
it
you
should
go.
give you an option.
Done,
Yeah.
done. Okay. All right, David, yeah. Okay, Mommy.
Well, many years ago, Uncle Willie Armstrong, he was your grandpa's cousin. He always came to South Africa. And one of the houses he always visited was the Rights of Port Elizabeth, if you would know the Rights of Port Elizabeth. Anyhow, Uncle Willie decided that he would bring Auntie Maud out, his sister. And of course, she knew the Rights, who they were. So we all decided we were going to go to Port Elizabeth. And off we went. And we got to Port Elizabeth and we stayed with, what's her name?
Doreen.
Auntie Doreen.
Right.
Auntie Doreen Wright and Uncle Sal. And we had a great time talking all hours of the night into the early hours of the morning. And I remember one night, you know what they did? My husband, your papa, fell asleep when they were all talking. And do you know what the Wrights did? They turned out the light and everybody was so quiet. And then Papa wakened up and everything was so black and he didn't know where he was. But anyhow, when we left Port Elizabeth and we were coming back, we decided that we would go another way and we would go through the Swartberg Pass. And I was driving with Uncle Austin and the two children, Ruth and Thomas. And Daddy had Auntie Maud and Uncle Willie in his car. So we were driving in the front and all of a sudden, I just got frightened. And Austin said to me, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I don't know what's wrong with me." But I said, "I feel very nervous." And do you know what he did? He pulled into the side of the road and he stopped. And then Uncle Kenneth and Auntie Maud and Willie in the other car, they were following hard after us. And they drove up the side of us and they said, "What's wrong?" And Austin says, "I don't know, but Charlotte wasn't feeling very good." And I stopped. And do you know, when we looked just about, well, you can't see from here to the window, just a few meters away, there was a stationary train stopped, a goods train across the road. No lights, no nothing on it. And if I hadn't have got that funny feeling, maybe Austin was driving pretty fast as well. But it was just wonderful how the Lord preserved us. And you know, we sat on the road in the pitch black for half an hour before that goods train moved on. So isn't the Lord good? He saved us from a terrible, terrible accident. So that's my wee story for tonight. Yes.
A great story. It's really, yeah, it was good to hear that.
What is?
You were going to tell them the other story about David as well.
Oh, what story?
About Samuel.
Beautiful
and David.
story.
Oh, yes. Well, I'll tell you another one. You know,
Is there another one?
when Samuel was a little boy, he started to go to a play school. And of course, I had to leave him run. So David and I walked round and we left Samuel there to play. And we walked home again. And then David disappeared. And I looked everywhere for him, couldn't find him. And then the lady phoned me from the house where Samuel was. And she said, Mrs. Elliott, David is here, so I've just let him play with all the children. He walked the whole way back and he was just about 2 to the house where Samuel was playing in. Yes. Do you hear that, David?
The Lord preserved you.
You disappeared. And the Lord preserved you. You were just about 2. And you walked to that house. So the woman phoned me and I'd looked everywhere for you. Couldn't find you. And then she
He's
phoned
always
me
been
and
a bit of an adventurer, hasn't he?
What did you say?
Oh, wow.
He's always been a bit of an adventurer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that story before. Whose house was that?
Did you hear that story before?
A play school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She
Wow.
phoned me and she said, David has come here and I'm just letting him play with the other children.
Mummy nearly had a heart attack because it was right at near the end of Pertier Way, so you'd walked around the streets on your own.
You'd walk quite a bit, I tell you.
Well, it's no wonder Samuel looks out for me all the time.
So now it's question time. Any questions or comments for Granny?
You guys got any?
It was a shorter story tonight.
Yeah.
That was 2 little stories.
No, that was good, Mummy.
Any questions?
Any questions for Granny?
What do you say?
I have a question, but it's not related to the stories which you've told, which are great stories. But I have never ever come across anywhere else or anyone else who makes roast potatoes like you. And I just wondered, where did you find the recipe, or did you make the recipe?
I think one night you phoned me. I was sound asleep in bed and David answered the phone. And he ran in and he wakened me and he says, Mummy, somebody on the phone for you. And who was it? It was this man here.
I think David was in London with Andrew.
Yes, David was over there then at that. Oh, was he?
I think he was, wasn't he, with Andrew?
Maybe so.
As
And
Elizabeth, probably.
you said, we're just discussing who makes the best roast potatoes and we've decided to phone you. And this was about 1 o'clock in the morning.
You didn't mind, did you?
Huh?
You didn't mind just phoning you at 1 o'clock.
Oh, please, she's told the story over and over again about the roast potatoes. Tell them where you learned to make those roast potatoes, Mum.
Oh, Miss Hendricks of Lakeside.
Yeah.
When we arrived in the country, we were only in a few days when this lady phoned and asked, would my husband take an open Sunday school? Now, you see, the coloured Sunday school was in the hall for the children, and the whites and the coloured weren't allowed to mix in those days. So Miss Hendricks started a Sunday school in her house. So we went down for the Sunday school there the first Sunday. And my husband took the Sunday school class, and then she got us to come down every Sunday. What was going to tell about this?
The roast potatoes.
Oh, yes. So many a Sunday, after the morning meeting in Mowbray and Belleville, or it was over in Mowbray then, Pinelands, we went away down in the train to Lakeside. And Miss Hendricks always had the most beautiful roast potatoes for dinner every Sunday. So that's where I learned how to make roast potatoes.
Right. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, good
Did you not?
Stephen.
Well, that was from Auntie
Yeah,
Emma and Auntie Katie.
I haven't had them like that for years. So, you know, the next time we're in Cape Town, I'm hoping that we can get some.
Oh, you'll have to come back for a visit. Yes. We still make roast potatoes, don't we?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yes. Now and again, not every Sunday.